Om lokaha samastaha suki no bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Well, we're going to get started in just a bit here. I'm going to have some of my tea. What do you think of my cup? I got this from my boys, but I actually like it. So before we get into the charts, let's talk about MEXC. This is an interesting rewards program that they have. I wish that I could have gotten some of these. You get $500 if you deposit 20K. You get $300 if you deposit 10K. It's a good deal just for depositing if you sign up using my link. They've got a lot of bonuses. I've gotten random bonuses from them. Excuse me. So Keystone also has a great deal right now. Buy 3, get the 4th free. It's the cheapest in the cart. This article has been standing out to me today. I don't think they're going to actually charge Binance. I don't think they have enough evidence to do this. This is from a 2018 investigation. Hi, Dejan. Hey, Miki. Yeah, it's a nice cup. I don't think that the DOJ is going to follow through with this. I think it's just a bunch of FUD right now. But that's not to say that I actually think that Binance is completely innocent in all of this. And it's not to say that it won't have a drastic impact on the price in the days to come. Of course, we know that all of this has been carefully, meticulously planned out. And bringing down Binance, at least putting a dent in the armor, it seems like it almost seems like the next play, and not wanting to go too much into conspiracy theories and all that, but CZ is definitely a pretty obvious target at this point in the game. So that's something that we're going to want to keep an eye on, and that's why I have BNB at the top of my list here. Before we start looking at charts, I want to mention 2 important events that are happening this week, and the reasons that I haven't been trading over the last several days for the most part. One is CPI is tomorrow. For me, that's 3:30 a.m. For you, it might be, if you're on the East Coast, it would be, that's what, 8:30 a.m. If you're on the West Coast, that's 6:30 a.m. And then I don't know if you're in Europe, I'm not sure, what's that, like 2:30 p.m. maybe, 2 or 3:30 p.m. So for Wednesday, we have the FOMC, and that's going to be a big one too. Both of them are going to be important, I think. And so we can expect some volatility. So from a trader's perspective, this is a good thing, right? Could be a good thing if you get on the right side, if you get on the right side of the price action. But just be aware of this, because normally what happens, my habit is to pull out from any trades that I'm in and to wait and see, because the market makers do the same. They pull their liquidity, and that usually creates sort of a whipsaw. Sometimes it'll start out moving really hard one way and then go the opposite way. Sometimes we'll see a continuation, but more often than not, actually, it'd be interesting to know if anybody tracks that. Usually it starts to go one way and then it reverses. And so just be aware of that. Sometimes, a lot of the times, especially if you're new to trading, it's better to just wait and see. Not financial advice, but it's better to just wait and see, for me personally, what's going to happen. Let the dust settle and then respond. Don't react. So tomorrow and Wednesday, definitely want to keep that in mind. So let's look at the price action for today. And again, just starting out without any of my levels up here. And we'll hide these here. This is the S&P. This to me looks like a period of consolidation before another potential push higher to maybe retest up here. Okay. I mean, that's just, it seems to be, if it was going to break down, then it should have already happened, but this is going to be dependent on what happens tomorrow. So if tomorrow and Wednesday we don't have any special announcements that like, you know, that are really shocking, then, you know, it's sort of what we would expect, then I would expect more upside for both stocks and for cryptocurrency. So that's that's where my bias is right now. But again, that could change. So don't take my word for it. But you can see where we are here. We came to the mid between the 2022 open and low and rejected initially, but now it's trying to push back up. And actually multiple times we've kind of come up and down in this range. And this time it actually just broke through again today. It's been moving rather quickly here. Something else that's really interesting right now is the VIX, which is up almost 10% today, which usually we see the VIX start to rise when the stock market starts to drop. So this is like the volatility index. It has to do with open contracts, and there's heightened speculation, and so that's happening right now. And usually when it hits down near these lower levels, this is usually a good time to buy stocks, at least, or at least the S&P. And when it starts to get up higher, this is usually when there's more selling happening. Okay, so it's been moving up despite stocks moving up as well. So I would usually expect to see a movement like this on a strong down day for stocks. So it's sort of an aberration there, and it's kind of a curiosity to me. Another good reason why I'm not in any positions right now. Okay, so Bitcoin now, again, no levels to start. We're in an obvious bear market downtrend. We had a big leg down here, and here was our range for several months, and now we broke down below, and it looks like, doesn't it look like it wants to maybe try to retest at minimum this range low here, which is around 18,300, 18,400. It looks that way to me. And if we start zooming in here, you can see on the daily, it's almost like two mini ranges that we've seen here. There was one here and there's one here. And this one's been a rather tight range. And it's just been chopping back and forth, up and down with some consistency. You can see it's almost like alternating perfectly here in this range on a daily basis. And it's sort of somewhat tiring for many of us, myself included. So now if let's bring up the levels and see where would be areas of interest for me. Here's the weekly open. We just got back above the weekly open. So if it holds above, we get a close today above. And again, notwithstanding any drastic announcements from our buddy, Mr. Powell, then I would definitely expect more upside, but this is a no trade zone for me. This is where I want to see it. I want to see it push back up to 17,200 again before I'm interested. And I want to see what it does, how it interacts at that level. But so it could do something like it could come up and start to drop down again and start to chop in this range until tomorrow. And then we'll see what happens. Or it could drop straight down like a rock and come back here, retest this level, and then maybe down here, okay? And then start to come back up again. There's a long trigger there for sure. This would be a great long opportunity if it gets back there. But I don't know that it will. I think it might, the more likely scenario seems to be maybe something like this, and then here, and then start to push up from there. But I think if it does come back up above this for a third time, it seems inevitable that it's going to eventually break out to the upside. And when that happens, it could be a very fast move, because what we've seen here over the last several days now, or weeks even, is the moves that when they happen on a 5 or 15 minute candle. I don't know if you noticed this, but it's kind of tricky because you're waiting for confirmation and then all of a sudden it just blasts off. Like here we can see this level you could call this a range here, right? So it came back into this range, but this happened in a 15-minute candle and it didn't come back. Here you could see on the 5-minute, okay, we had a break above, but that's not really enough conviction for me personally. But then in that 1 15-minute candle, it already went almost halfway into this range. And so from the perspective of a range trader, this is not really a good entry for me, and it never came back to retest. So, but now you can see that it's pausing here at this level here, which makes sense. This is previous resistance. So that's happened multiple times with several different cryptocurrencies. I've noticed that the same thing happened with Ethereum, where notice here, it looked like it wasn't so sure. It wasn't sure whether it wanted to break above these swing levels here, but then it did it in a 15-minute candle. Actually did it in 10 minutes, and this 5-minute candle was really the decisive one. And so it didn't really give an opportunity for an entry. Okay, and it wasn't really giving any clarity before that. It's almost like they're just moving quickly and violently. And so this is a sign, of course, of heightened volatility, which we should be expecting. And this market in general has been, we've had that slow, steady structural bleed out. And we haven't had like an event driven. It's not like COVID, where we had that one big sell off and then it started to move back up very quickly. It's been a structural bleed out, and there's been some vicious rallies in the mix. And I think that this is definitely a trader's market, and it's also a difficult time for traders as well. And you have to pick your battles. And something that I did here recently, that actually I just did this today, I cleaned up my watch list. I don't know if you can see this. See, maybe I can. Well, I cleaned up my watch list so that I just have, let's see if I can move myself here. Yeah. So I just have sort of the majors that I'm interested in trading right now, and some of the main indices that I'm paying attention to. Because I noticed that when I focus too much on too many charts, I tend to get distracted. Like, this is my red list, and these are all, I've got my potentials here. And I've got just taking a quick look at bonds and some Forex pairs that I'm not really interested in trading. And then, but my main list is very small. And so it keeps me focused, and it makes it easier for me to switch between charts. And that's just been my style lately. But definitely, I think it's helpful to make use of these watch lists. You can create them, you can color code them if you'd like. And so you can see what I'm focused on right now, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, and BNB. And BNB wasn't on this list until today, because this is all, we've had some actual movement on this, and it's been, some traders I'm sure have really benefited from this if they caught wind of the, the news, that the FUD that's been circulating. And you can see that it broke below here. We broke below this level here and did come back and retest, dirty retest here. But then look at that candle. That's a 15-minute candle. See, there's no real way that you could have seen that. Like, if you're an aggressive trader, you might have profited off of this. But there's no real way to see that it was going to do that. It could have gone either way here. And so BNB really came down hard, and it came smack into this zone here, which is a previous demand zone. Okay, and it wicked down to the bottom of the demand zone, which is typical here. And now the question is whether it will reverse. Now, it's interesting to note, because BNB is not showing as much strength as Bitcoin, Ethereum. And you can see that these rejection wicks up here, and many rejection wicks prior to that, it actually looked like it wanted to head down further. But then Bitcoin and Ethereum started to pump here. But now if we go back and we see Bitcoin, look at these candles. And then you see Ethereum, look at these candles, okay? But BNB, is not the case. So if anything, I'd be leaning towards more downside for BNB, regardless of what happens with the news. I definitely would not be longing this here. I can tell you that for sure. But maybe usually when we see a sharp move down like this here, and it sort of consolidates, it may push back up, and then ideally it would consolidate here and then start to break down. And that would be a short trigger. And most likely at that point, it would probably break down below. But that's contingent on what the rest of the market is doing. So, or maybe it's not. I mean, it might not be. It might be sort of an FTX sort of scenario, but I don't think there could be bank runs on Binance, but Binance is much, much larger than every other existing exchange. So, and they've definitely withstood a lot of other battles. So I'm just, this is pure speculation at this point, and it's not really in a trade. It's not something that I would jump on the bandwagon and short here. I want to see if it can push back up again. If you missed it, you kind of shrug it off, because most people miss this move. It's not, this wouldn't have been really easy to detect here. This was a news driven event here. So we will see, we shall see. So any questions so far? What do you guys think? Head into tomorrow. What do you guys think? Are we going to see more upside, or is it going to crash down pretty hard after FOMC or CPI? What are you guys looking for? What charts are you looking at? I had a long position on Matic that I got out of. I'm going to use this as a case study here with Matic. You can see the drop down below this pretty well established range here. Now, notice how much of a difference it makes just having these levels versus not. You see that? I mean, when you learn how to draw them properly, when you learn how to, how to interpret them properly, it's like, this is my guidebook. Without this, I'm pretty lost here. I wouldn't have even seen this trade. Okay, but so I have the levels here, and this was a big deviation, and I saw it come back inside and retest and show some strength. And I actually got in right at the range low here, and I was planning to take, I had my first take profit up here at the mid. I was planning for it to eventually come back up higher. It did not do that. So I had to reevaluate when it started to chop around here, and I just took profits on this one. So I managed to get a decent profit on this trade. But that just goes to show you, sometimes, seldom do our expectations play out. Sometimes it does, and it's very nice. I had a trade this weekend on You're in Finance that played out beautifully, and it was sort of a textbook range play from the bottom to the top again, and then it went all the way back down to the bottom, and that was nice. But that doesn't always happen. Usually there's some drama in the middle there. So I just wanted to show you all that. Of course, I had quite a few losing trades over the last couple of weeks, and I've been making up for it this last week or so. So, but that's okay, because I had a really good month last month, and it's funny because you start to focus on the losing trades and you forget, oh, I was up 31% last month. I'll take it. I didn't give it all back, like I hardly gave any of it back. So we're so hard on ourselves, and just being aware. And I started really, actually, I used to type out my trade, my trade journal. And now I have actually a journal that I'm writing. And I find that writing instead of typing does make a difference as far as like what you remember and how you feel afterwards, and you can go back and review easier. I already have enough tabs on my computer, so just pulling that up. But having a trade journal, it's like, they talk about making those gradual increases every day, or improvements, where it's just even just 1%. I think that this is probably just like buying a journal for $7 or $8 on Amazon or whatever. It's probably a 10% improvement for most traders or more. And if you just consistently get in the habit of, after every trade, what happened? Was it good? Was it bad? What did you do right? What did you do wrong? And then in that case, then you're going to be doing yourself a tremendous service. And of course, those of you that are in this right now, you're serious about trading. For me, I actually procrastinated on this aspect of it for many years. And, you know, we think, oh, I don't have to do that, or I'm going to remember. Well, you do in a sense, but also like it's just to like really solidify that experience and to make note, like, how can I adjust in the future so that maybe that doesn't happen again. So dot and algo and sand. Okay, I'll take a look and see, but first I'm going to explore Matic. Let's get rid of that. So I noted this in my trade journal. You know, it was a good trade. I actually got out at the right time. So congratulate yourself when you do that. I'm going to have some tea here. Matic, I actually was not expecting it to do this just because it basically is like a textbook. It almost looks like the exact same. Do you see this? It's like the exact same price movements as previously. You can see it here. There was that, and then there was that. And you can see even like down to the, here's the portal, or the tower bottom, push up, consolidation. And I thought for sure, I'm like, well, it's just too obvious. It's just too obvious. And sure enough, it's doing the same exact thing. But I'm just wary of Matic right now. I don't know how much strength it has. Again, I want to see how Bitcoin and Ethereum react to the announcements tomorrow and on Wednesday. But if I were to trade this, if I were looking at levels to trade, I'd want to see how, if it can get back above here, then, and it shows actual strength. And then I'd also be looking at this area here. Maybe it gets above this, and then I'd be longing it potentially back up to this level here. Or if it breaks down from here, I want to see how it interacts at this mid level, because this is also the beginning. This is also a demand zone. You can see it across here. Okay. The price didn't stay here for too long, so I want to see if it finds support here. I'm actually not really so interested in trading Matic right now. But if we look at Matic, no, I don't want that there. I want to get rid of that. No, I don't want to get rid of that. I want to get rid of that. By the way, if you ever make a mistake on TradingView like I just did, just use Command Z. At least that's on a Mac. I'm not sure if it's like Control on Windows, but helps to undo that. So let's have a look at some of the others. I was just filming another video, actually. I started making videos for this channel that are more on like the spiritual side, but also like self-development, because I feel like, first of all, I get really bored just making crypto videos. And second, it's just it's a smaller part of who I am and what I came here to share. And so this is an experiment. Maybe I'll continue to lose subscribers. Maybe I'll gain a whole lot more from outside of crypto. I'm fine with that. I don't really care. I'm just trying to share what I think is most valuable here. Let's see if we can find sand on here. I think I have it in my gems. What's up with sand? What's going on here? Potentially finding support here. Yeah, this could be this is a major support level here. So, yep. Okay. And it looked like it just, we have a rejection wick there on the daily. And we have a range here that I'm going to mark that there. That looks like a deviation there. Yep. I mean, this is basically the lower boundary of this range. So yeah, that's a curiosity. This could be a potential long setup here for sand. But I'm just a little bit wary of trading alts right now. But if it yeah, there could be a lot of upside to sand in the coming days. If you mark out the mid, let's see where the mid is on this. Yep, I would say that's a significant level there. So I'll keep an eye on this. I might be trading it. We'll see. But I'm going to wait probably. And if it takes off today or tomorrow without me, that's okay. I'll wait and see if it pulls back. But yep, there's an SR flip zone right there. Resistance, resistance, broke through resistance, 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 flipped into support here, resistance, resistance. So I'd be looking to maybe, if it can show some continued strength here, then I'd be looking to long it to there, then maybe back up to 62 cents. But yeah, good eyes on that one. That's a good one. That's in a good place. Dot and algo. Let's look at dot and see what we can see. Start on the weekly. A lot of these are really, yeah, I mean they're down so far, but they're also coming into, like, this is definitely a demand zone here. Before this, it's the origin of this big move up here in the bull run. So this is a support level, and it just basically filled this entire inefficiency here. So a lot of these seem to be coming down to critical levels of support, and I don't think it's time for them to really break through. I think it's time for them to really push back up again. This range is a little bit sloppy. I don't like sloppy ranges, but I'm gonna put this here only because I know that it's actually closer to that weekly level. Yeah, this is the weekly level here that we're looking at. So yeah, I think dot actually also similar to sand, similar sort of price action there on the 4H. That looks like some bullish, some strength there. And I like that it has this, it's not exactly a hammer, but there's the rejection there, and then the consolidation, break above. Ooh, this, if it's too bad that that I don't know, because these could run, these could run over the next 24, 48 hours. This is a potential long. So, and again, the mid here, and we're just playing the levels here, but the mid is also at a SR zone here. You can see it it's pretty plain as day there. Yeah. So I would be targeting, initial targets would be 530, and then I'd be looking at 550 if I were to take a long here. I mean, this basically meets my criteria for a long position. It's just that I'm just a little bit wary with Bitcoin and ETH. But even if they chop around here for the next day or so, it could give the alts room to run. We shall see. Algo, is this helpful for you all? I'm wondering if, let's see. I haven't really traded this. Yeah, it's the same sort of pattern. A lot of these are falling into support levels. It hasn't come all the way down. I mean, you can see on the weekly, this just looks dismal. I mean, it looks like it's just going to fall into this bottomless pit. But I don't know that that's the case here with algo. We're not really in a range here. We just came out of this big choppy range here and broke down below. And you can see that it's sort of obeying these EMAs. I wouldn't be longing this for me. Not saying that it can't come back up again, but notice where it is in relation to the EMAs. So this is a trending mark. This is a trending coin right now. 𝐼𝐴𝐽 is trending down. It's not ranging like most of the other ones are. So, so I wouldn't trade this. I wouldn't short it either because of how far down it's gone. It's kind of in no man's land right now, and we have to go way back to see the price history here. And if we can see, if we can find critical levels, yeah, I'm gonna mark it. I'm gonna mark this as the low there. It hasn't really come down into that level yet. It might chop around in here for a while, but it needs to, at the very minimum, put in a range or come back up to retest this level here. What happened to my tool? It needs to come back up and retest this level here, which is around 0.277. So I maybe put an alert here and here. And anything in the middle, I'm just not really interested in. So, and I'd be more, yeah, that's 𝐬𝐽. I wouldn't really, I'm not really wanting to, I wouldn't want to trade this. So I'm not sure what else you all are interested in. I haven't really been giving the alts. I noticed a pattern, and this is where it's also really helpful to journal. It's like I noticed that I started to give away a lot more with certain alts than others. And Doge was one where I was kind of like 50-50 in my trades because of some really unpredictable moves. And it's just like, is it worth it, or is it better to just wait for a real setup on a major such as Bitcoin that you just feel like that's, you know, can be your bread and butter? And if I just didn't trade alts, if I just traded Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last month or so, I'd be up a lot more than I am, and if that makes sense. So there's a certain discipline in that. And I think that as this bear market wears on, which I do expect it to continue, then it's going to be harder to trade the alts because there's going to be even less liquidity. And that is going to lead to more manipulation, if that makes sense. And there will come a time when it's more favorable to trade alts again, and it's going to be easy in a sense, because that could be a year or longer, a couple of years down the road, when retail really starts to come back in again full force. And then it's just, you know, every pullback, you know, pull back to support previous resistance, pull back to the EMAs, just long it again. You know, that's it. And that's, you know, I mean, it's a lot easier to trade in that environment than, you know, or maybe at the height of the bull market, you know, if you'd have caught this and seen, oh, look, here's Dogecoin. Oh, wait, that's not the height of the bull market. Okay, let's look and see. The height of the bull market. Well, here's an obvious slowdown from here to here. And then you see the breakdown here, and you see, okay, well, now it's range bound for a while here. Once it breaks down below this monthly level here, and then you get the retest. But Doge has not been really the cleanest chart to trade. I mean, you get the retest, it broke down once, retested a second time, kind of broke down, retested a third time, and then finally broke down. But what are the chances you're going to catch this move with all of this junk in the middle here? You know, it's still going down. I mean, unless you caught Dogecoin when it did sort of the real dead cat bounce up here, okay, at around 44, 45 cents, unless you caught it somewhere over here, it's not really, and just held it, it's not really worth trading it, you know? I mean, at least that's just my perspective on it. I would rather see something that I can, you know, that's, whereas if we look at Bitcoin and we look and see what happened with Bitcoin, you can see the obvious distribution pattern, and you can see when it broke down, that was that. It wasn't like kind of like, you know, trying back up again 2 and 3 times, you know. So we have this range here, and this was an obvious deviation outside of this, and broke down, and you could have shorted it here, you could have shorted it here, you could have shorted it here, and just held it, or just, you know, been riding it down. And this is much more predictable to me, with some exceptions, but for the most part you can see. And so I think it'd be interesting to just chart over the course of many months or years. Like if I just traded these and just stayed away from the charts that really don't make a whole lot of sense to me, how's that going to impact my performance? Yeah, December could be a bloodbath. Or 2023, December could be an up month, but 2023, especially early in 2023, you know, it could, this is where I think we start to really put in the bottom for Bitcoin, Ethereum, is in early 2023. And I'm not looking forward to it myself, because I don't like it when sentiment is down and nobody's interested, and nobody wants to trade. We need traders. We need traders. You know, we need the liquidity. So I'd rather see it going up than down, obviously. Yeah, I talked about FOMC. I don't think it's going to be anything really that's, you know, unexpected. I don't think that we're going to see any, like, I mean, I think if anything, the price is probably going to react in a positive way, especially since Bitcoin's just been holding 17K for it seems like a long time now, but it's been a couple of weeks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, almost 2 weeks now. I would say the point of control for Bitcoin is 17K. And so when you see a range like this, as I mentioned here before we saw this leg down, this was a bigger range, and for the most part it was staying in this quadrant, this lower quarter of this range. Okay, and so but now we have this range, and we're in the upper quadrant, and we've been staying up there, and then a lot of people are eyeing this big gap here, okay, this fair value gap, and I think it's going to come up and fill some of that in the coming days, okay, or at least this week, maybe next week, leading into Christmas. And at minimum, I am expecting Bitcoin to retest 18,200. Maybe it comes back inside, deviates, gets everyone long again, and then starts to come back down again. But that, from a daily perspective, like if you look again and you see the levels, or without the levels, just this one level here, and just looking at the EMAs, like where would that, well, I guess they're flat, huh? I guess we're looking on the weekly. That's what we want to look at. Okay, so just looking at the EMAs from the weekly perspective, 18,200 would just be the 12. And look at these candles. I mean, it looks like it's consolidating, but it's not pushing down. I think it's probably going to push up. There's a higher probability that it pushes up, at least to 18,200. That would be initial targets. And then maybe eventually it comes all the way up to 20,000 again. And that really gets retail interested again before, you know, now that would be the definition of a vicious bear market rally, and then brings it back down again. But it's pure speculation. I don't have a magic crystal ball. I think that, yeah, but this level looks pretty inviting, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know that even if it gets anywhere inside of this, I mean, 20K is like basically, yeah, it's right here. So this would be a normal take profit level. It's closer to the mid of this range here. So I don't think it's unreasonable for it to come back up there. And then that would also give a lot of the bulls sort of the grounds to be like, this was just a big deviation from this range, and that this is actually accumulation. And then they crush it down, you know? So if that were the case, I mean, if it did prove that this was a deviation, it got back inside, and then it comes back up here and we don't see it really breaking down, or it takes its time, then in that case, I'd have to reevaluate. Is this just one big accumulation? Is the bottom in? I don't think that it is. I think that this is a temporary rally, and then it comes back down much lower. So halving's in 2024, isn't it? So we still got a ways away for that. But how do I set up my trades? I establish the levels first. Like I'll look at quarterly and monthly and weekly and daily levels and 4H levels, and I'll look at ranges and micro ranges, and I'll look and see at the macro picture, which I just showed you guys, and where is my bias, the directional bias, and then I'll start to see, okay, like where are we in this range? Like, is this a place where I would want to trade? Where exactly would I be interested? And then maybe set an alert. Okay, like again, I mentioned 17,200-ish would be about where I'd get interested and maybe looking for a long for Bitcoin. But I'm also waiting to see what happens tomorrow and Wednesday. And then I think, I plan it out and think, okay, if this happens, then this. If this, then this. This is how much I'd be probably willing to risk. And of course, those numbers can change depending on what I see. But I always have a plan. I always know, okay, if Ethereum hits this level, if Ethereum comes back down and retests 1256 and shows some strength, it's most likely going to be a long for me. If it comes up here, 1301, this is where I'm interested. This is where I get interested. The rest of the time, when it's in this chop zone, I don't care. I'm not paying attention to it. I'd rather do other things, focus on making other videos, set your levels, know what you're going to trade, know what you're looking for. I'm looking for certain reactions. I'm looking for pin bars. I'm looking for momentum candles. I'm looking to see what the order books are showing with the delta, like when it hits those levels. But I'm not constantly studying that. I don't care what's happening right now. Even though we just saw these big pushes up here, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter because where are we in the grand scheme of things? We're in no man's land. We're in the middle of nowhere. Maybe this rejects here, comes back down again. Maybe it's here. Am I going to short this? No, because you've got your range low here. Am I going to long this? No, because the range high is here. I want to get in closer to the extremes. And if it doesn't get there, that's fine. Or if it breaks through and I don't catch the move all the way up here, that's fine, because there's always more waves in the sea. There's always going to be more opportunities. You miss a 15-minute candle that does this, well, you're a human being. I don't know if, you have to be paying really close attention at this point for it to have caught this. Okay. Some people, they're proactive in their trades. I know one of my trader friends, he took a long somewhere over here, but that was an aggressive long, and it was a 50-50 chance, to be honest. It could have went up, it could have went down. There wasn't really any indication that it was finding support. It was just sort of consolidating. So, but everybody has their triggers, and my triggers are, very specific, and I try to be patient. I'm not always successful at that. I try to be as patient as possible. So I hope that answers your question, Lo Mein. And so Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Matic and BNB, but if I see, and the reason I have this ETH BTC chart up is because I want to see if, right now it's not really giving me a whole lot of any indication of what it's going to do. But if I see, like, we're kind of also in the middle of a choppy range here. But Ethereum has been a little bit weaker than Bitcoin, but you notice what happened when it broke this level. It showed a lot of strength at this point. I think I did take a long around here, but I don't long or short just because of what ETH BTC is doing. I will just use this as, okay, am I going to put more into ETH? Am I going to focus on ETH or Bitcoin right now? Because if Ethereum is stronger, let's just say that Ethereum breaks this with some strength, gets above here, and starts to really move up again. Okay, then I would say, well, at this point here, I'd be looking for longs for ETH. But if it breaks down, if it can't really hold above this, if it keeps doing this and then it does this, well, I'd be more likely to short this and to long Bitcoin, depending on what, what the circumstances warrant, right? So that's why I have ETH BTC. So, I mean, there's some traders and they just trade these. And I think when I started out, I used to think, well, there's just so many more opportunities if you just pay attention to all the alts. You never know what you're going to find. But it's just difficult sometimes, because sometimes the alts will follow what you expect, your expectations, but then it's almost like ETH and BTC can throw a wrench in them when, if all of a sudden ETH starts to crash and you've got like your sand and it's doing really well and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, but then everyone's like, well, wait a minute, Ethereum is crashing, and then it drops back down again. And so that can be incredibly frustrating, versus if I just focus on Ethereum, then Ethereum is Ethereum, and Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And sometimes they do their own thing, but for the most part, there's a high degree of correlation still in this market. So that's just giving a little bit more into my trading, like my mindset and my trading strategies. And I hope that you find it helpful. I'm going to get off here because I've got a video that I want to put out about getting out of negative cycles. So be on the lookout for that one. And that's actually fun for me because I spend a lot of time with personal development. I think that's equally important to learning how to trade, just improving yourself 1% every day, learning as much as you possibly can, and giving your all in that regard. And I think that's what draws a lot of people to this channel. And I think that's what's going to, really make or break you in the long run as a trader, and to have a sustainable future. FTX. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen with that. There's a lot of drama. It's like a soap opera. And I'm just kind of tired of the whole thing. I think a lot of us are. And it's by design. They don't, if they don't, what is it? They don't scare you out, they'll wear you out. And that's sort of where we're at right now. Just kind of like the big guys are trying to wear everybody out so they can buy everything at the cheapest possible price. And I mean, not being pessimistic, that's just the reality. But you don't have to pay any attention to that. It doesn't really matter what happens with SBF. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm kind of neutral in it. I'd rather that, like, I mean, if he's guilty of all the things people claim, then yeah, he should go to jail. But it doesn't matter, like, from a trader perspective, like, how is this going to impact the markets? It's already priced in what happened with FTX. If you caught that move, great. If you didn't, no big deal. There's going to be more events probably like that in the future, especially, now with all the talk about regulations. I mean, it's all just too picture perfect in a sense, right? It all just seems too very well planned and executed up to this point. So, but I don't think it's over yet. And I don't think that the details that are going to be released are going to have anything to do with SBF, and that's why I'm looking at Binance. That's why I'm looking at to see what, what's going on with CZ. But for the most part, I just don't really pay much attention to the events, or, unless it's a really big event, because even when I try to figure out what's going on, you go on Twitter, and even though I have my lists and I have certain people that I follow, it's just so much opinion and not really a whole lot of truth. And so I'm just like, well, okay, Binance is down. There's got to be some, if it's doing something that's a complete aberration from the rest of the market, then I think, okay, well, what's going on with Binance? And then I look into it. Sometimes you catch that and you just happen to be, on the leading edge of that news release. And that was the case with the whole FTX thing for me. That's why I shorted it around $18. But it's, those events, they don't happen very often. And so I'd rather just sort of watch the charts and see. And, in the case of BNB, again, like, I'm not going to long this because it's not showing any real strength compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, even though it is pushing back up again. But it could very well. I would actually love to see it come back up and see what it does up here, because this is where I'm interested. Okay. So I know I'm interested here. I'm not interested here. This is a gamble. I don't really know what's going to happen. this is a demand zone here. If it comes back and starts to really falter here and it breaks down below here, then we're headed much further south. And the next level is 260, 264. Well, maybe in the middle there, maybe 263. So these demand zones, they're stacking on top of one another. But the real origin of the move was way down here. Okay. So that'd be like 250, 254. So, I mean, I'm not really very optimistic about BNB. It's not one that I'm going to hold. I just don't like the way CZ's been talking. And I've noticed that if there's someone that has a strong opinion about something and they're sort of overzealous about it, that's a red flag. You know, I used to like CZ. I used to like SBF too. And, you know, it's just like they've changed. Money changes people. And it's hard to know who to trust right now. There's not a whole lot of integrity in the space. Pretty much everyone is a shark. And you gotta be careful, you know, like I definitely, for me personally, like I don't own any BNB. I will never buy any BNB because there's too much. I don't care what the market cap is. Like there's too many other better opportunities out there. So yeah, I've been wrong. You know, the bear market, I've been mostly right, but I was wrong about certain things like Wonderland. I was wrong about Luna. You know, I didn't see that coming. I was naive with Wonderland. I don't know. I liked Danny, and that was creating a bias for me. And even though he had certain things that were obvious red flags, like he just didn't have it together. You know, you could tell by the way he dressed, the way he talked, like he just didn't have it together. And like, but I liked him because he had heart. And so that was my ultimate downfall with Wonderland. I lost some money there. With Luna, I did like Do Kwon, but then he started to get arrogant and I just kind of turned a blind eye to it. And I just didn't focus on it too much. I just was like, I don't really like that. I don't really like that he's saying these things, but I was heavily invested in it and didn't see that coming. And I happened to be sick when that whole collapse happened, and I didn't really have the opportunity to respond to it in a good way. So I mean, I sold some of it. I got to sell some of it off in like 20 something dollars, but yeah, you know, you make mistakes and you learn from them. And now I'm like, I'm not hodling anything ever. I'm not even gonna, you know, it's gonna take a lot for me to want to own spot, maybe in a couple of years, but I can do better as a trader. And that was the realization. So you got to do what works best for you, but always have discernment, always, you know, have a good grounded foundation and work on yourself, and, you know, don't be affected by what's happening out there. So that's it for today. I'm starting to lose my voice, and I hope that you enjoyed this. Feel free, please like it if you watch this far in the video. Engagement's been terrible lately, and but I'm not doing it for that. So have a beautiful rest of your day.